Good day, friends, and welcome to Pass It On, a Nice Nation talk show. Here on the show, we will speak to the people who ultimately will speak with you to share insights to what they feel will help guide students or staff and or community personnel in the right journey of success. So join us here bi-weekly for the latest in criticism and discussion featuring the biggest relevant stories of students, representatives, teachers in our environment today. I'm your host, Andre Quattlebaum, better known as Coach Q. My guest today brings enthusiasm, creativity, a discipline to his responsibilities that has allowed him to move up the ranks to ensure our student population here in the Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Having an array of educational experiences from elementary, middle, and now high school, this fine gentleman's approach is that he wants equitable opportunities for every child to grow their talents and realize their potential as if they were his own children. It's a pleasure to have this gentleman allow us to get to know him a little better. Without further ado, I bring to you Mr. Anthony Alston, the Regional Assistant Superintendent of Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Welcome to Pass It On, sir.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's great to have you here today. As always, time is money, so let's get started. When did you know that you were going to become the Regional Assistant Superintendent of Anne Arundel County Public Schools?
So Kate Gilbert is the former Regional Assistant Superintendent for the North County and Chesapeake feeder system, and she retired August 31st.
Okay.
And so about a week before that, I found out that I was going to be the newly appointed Regional Assistant Superintendent for the North County and Chesapeake feeder system.
Okay. And what does that responsibility entail as far as being a regional superintendent or assistant superintendent of school? I pretty much know what the superintendent of school, he or she is the overseer
Absolutely.
of all the jurisdiction of school. What does that responsibility for you as being the assistant superintendent regional-wise does?
So I'm the immediate supervisor for all of the principals in the North County and Chesapeake feeder system.
Okay.
So I've got 20 schools
Okay.
that I work with in supporting in regards to developing and growing those leaders. And I just don't mean principals in regards to leaders, right? They're leaders in all of our buildings that
Absolutely.
don't have the title of principal or assistant principal. But supporting them and their communities and growing them academically and growing their students.
Okay. How do you build relationships with the many staff and principals that you are under your leadership? How's that relationship built? Because I'm pretty sure from a standpoint, we'll get into it later as far as you being a principal and people that was your superiors, how you wanted to cultivate that relationship. So how do you build relationships?
I think the best way to build relationships is being present,
Okay.
being hands on deck, and always willing to roll up your sleeves. So you will find that I'm in all of my schools quite regularly. I have no problems walking the halls. I have no problems going into classrooms, building relationships with students as well as the adults. So I find myself at North County and in my other schools quite regularly.
Okay.
And I walk the halls. I talk to students, ask them about their grades, walk into classrooms, look at instruction, get to know individuals, and that's how you build relationships, by actually being present.
Absolutely, I would say that. Well, we have a fabulous principal that has been with us for 2 years, and I believe his motto is explore, engage, and elevate. I don't know in that realm, but I believe that's a way that he has built relationships with students and his staff members here with that expectation of exploring, engaging, and exploring. So with that, are you enthusiastic about what you're doing?
This is probably the best job I've ever had. And every time I get a new position, I think it's the best job,
Right.
and then I get surprised.
Okay.
One of the things that I love the most about this position is being able to be in schools.
Okay.
Right? I love being around students, seeing learning. I love building relationships. I love school improvement. So this job allows me to do all of those things. Right?
Absolutely.
So it's an amazing opportunity.
What were your expectations in accepting this new role? Did you have any, or?
So, this is one of those jobs where you think you know what it entails, and
Right.
then you get into it and you're thinking, wow, I completely missed the mark in regards to that. The expectation that I have that absolutely is true is the support for principals,
Support.
right? All the other things that are added into it that comes with supporting the principals, I'm not sure I was prepared for, but I'm a quick learner, and boots on the ground.
Okay. We'll get back to that. Briefly describe your journey as you have become an educator and what made you become an educator within your journey.
So at first, my goal was not to be a teacher. That
Okay.
was not even on
Remotely on the chart?
No, not at all. I did want to go into education, but not that as a classroom teacher. I wanted to be a school psychologist.
Okay.
So I went to Hampton University.
HBCU.
Absolutely, best thing ever.
Absolutely.
Graduated in '96, and I went in with a major of psychology.
Okay.
And I quickly realized that psychology alone, as a bachelor's, was not going to pay a single bill
Absolutely.
that I had. And so I added the minor of special education. And so I student taught, and I really did enjoy it. But I still applied to a grad program for school psychology, and I got accepted, but I really fell in love with teaching.
Right. Have you learned, or what have you learned, should I say, in your upbringing that has prepared you for what you're doing now as being a regional assistant superintendent? Is there a foundation or something that you can pinpoint and say, this is something that is a cornerstone of me that I still apply to myself that I learned as a younger age growing up through whether it be high school or college?
I would absolutely say it's relationships.
Relationships.
Right? If it's not about relationships, it's not about anything.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's not about saying you have relationships, it's showing you have relationships. It's showing by your interactions when people are looking and watching and when people aren't looking and watching. The private conversations that I have behind closed doors with you
Okay.
shows relationships and the respect that we have for each other. I would say respecting relationships.
Okay. Talk to me a little bit about your role that you had before becoming the regional superintendent of schools. That has something to do with equity and accelerated student achievement.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about that, and then explain to me how is that student achievement measured throughout the county?
So about 4 years ago,
Mhm.
I was appointed as the Executive Director of Equity
Okay.
and Accelerated Student Achievement. And in that role, my sole responsibility was to guide our school system in our efforts to elevate all students and eliminate all gaps.
Okay.
And so in essence, it was the achievement gap.
Okay.
But looking at gaps differently, not only looking at gaps in achievement in regards to how students were performing, looking at gaps in discipline, looking at gaps in access and opportunity, looking at gaps in expectations.
Right.
And so as we look at how we measure gaps within our system, we look at it in a couple of different ways. We look at the difference between student groups, but the difference between the standard, right?
Okay.
And so if we're saying that the standard is 90% of our students are going to perform advanced or proficient on particular tests, and a school is not at 90, the difference between that 90 and when they're performing is a gap.
Okay.
Right? So we use the strategic plan as our benchmark
Okay.
for our standards in regards to what our goals are, but also the areas that we're focusing on.
Okay.
Right? So academics, discipline, participation in advanced placement.
Courses.
Yes, sir.
Things of that nature. Now, is this applied only in the high school sector, or you're looking at it from the middle school? Does middle school offer advanced placement? I'm not sure elementary does or not. So when you're talking about the student achievement gap, is this singular for just high school, or is we're talking about the entire Anne Arundel County Public School system?
We're talking about the entire school system.
Okay.
And so there are, in the strategic plan that's currently about to end, the board meeting, they were adopting a new strategic plan for us. There were 10 academic data points, academic and discipline data points that we were looking at that spanned between elementary and high school.
Okay.
So some were specific to high school, such as advanced course placement.
Yes.
But there were others that were specific to elementary, such as early literacy and students reading by the end of second grade.
Right.
And so there were some that transcended all three levels, but there were some for each level that we looked at and monitored.
Okay. What is your philosophy on discipline? Because you, as we talked about in your intro, you've moved up the ranks. You were a special educator, you were a teacher, you were a principal,
Yes.
and now you did the equity, now you're a regional assistant superintendent. What is your philosophy on discipline? Because you've been in it as far as being inside the school, and now you're on the outside still looking in as far as making sure
Absolutely.
those discipline procedures still take place. So can you talk to the viewers a little bit about what you believe your philosophy is on discipline and how we should handle it here or where else in our county public schools?
So I think oftentimes we confuse discipline with consequences, right? And so
Good
when we
point.
think of discipline, discipline truly is learning,
Right.
And so if we were to take the word discipline and take it outside of the school setting, right? And so I'm practicing the discipline of martial arts,
Right.
It not equates to the word consequence, right? But when we get into a school setting, there's a tendency to want to make those two words interchangeable, and they're not.
They're not
Right,
interchangeable.
and so
It's a great point.
when I think of discipline, I think of it as teaching and learning.
Okay.
Right, and so as a school system, it's our obligation to teach our children, right? And so we need to teach them academically, but we need to teach them expected behaviors, right? And so are there times where, as we are teaching them, consequences must come
Mhm.
as a result of behaviors? Absolutely, but I think first and foremost, we need to make sure that we're teaching our students expected behaviors, not just for school, but for society.
Okay. Did you inherit in this job any difficulties? So when you took, what I mean by difficulties, when Ms. Gilbert left, a lot of times when people leave and they leave things undone, what they wanted to accomplish, but they didn't get it accomplished, and maybe the new person who's coming in is expected to live up to the expectation or what somebody promised them before they left.
I wouldn't say I walked into picking up difficulties in that sense. I think that with each of us in whatever position we have, we are able to move whatever that school is or schools to a certain point, and that's our job.
Right.
Right, and then you need someone else to come in that's different. It's going to take a different approach to move them to the next level.
Absolutely.
And so she handed off everything in an amazing condition.
Okay.
School's on the right track, and so I just see it as my opportunity to take them to that next level.
So, of the 20 schools that you have, are there any goals that you really want to accomplish? I'm
Absolutely.
certain that you do have them. Can you just talk about a couple ones that you actually want to make certain that this gets accomplished in my time period? Is there, before you answer that, is there a time limit to your job? Do you have to keep applying for your job?
No, I don't have to keep applying, but I mean, I'm sure if I don't do well, that that can quickly expire, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so
So I absolutely have. Well, I have one big goal of elevating all students, eliminating all gaps, right? That's the ultimate goal.
Okay.
But I realize that that's the end goal, and to get to the end goal, there must be smaller goals broken down. And so as I look at each of my 20 schools, they're all not in the same place.
That's true.
Right? And so there are goals that are slightly different for each school, depending upon the level that they are, where their starting point is. But if I were to take North County, for example, right?
please do.
There are some amazing things that go on in the school,
Such as pass it on.
absolutely, that many don't realize and recognize, right? And so my goal for North County is really for it to be seen as the premier school that it is, right? We have amazing instruction that goes on every single day. We have amazing students that walk these halls every single day.
Very true.
You will find some of the most respected and dedicated and hardworking students right here at North County High School.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, people don't always think that, and I think that's because of the fact that it's North County and the community that we serve, not realizing that this is an amazing place to be, with amazing adults working in this building that care about children, with amazing instructional programs, whether it be STEM, whether it be the signature
IT3,
program,
yes.
IT3. There are amazing things that go on in this building every
day.
single day, and they aren't always recognized, and that's my goal.
And that's a great goal
That's
to
my goal.
have, and that's one of the goals of Pass It On. That's why we bring on individuals such as yourself and other community people that surround this area, whether it be the counseling, talk about scholarships and things of that nature. So, because it's our job to, here on Pass It On, to get that information out there to the people who need that type of information instruction. And you're absolutely right as far as the STEM program. We definitely have a dynamic school. Do you have a goal to say that you want a STEM program to be in every school? And how many schools that's under your leadership has STEM programs?
So, while my goal is not for STEM to be at every school, because I'm not sure that every student in STEM is their passion,
Okay.
right? But I do want to ensure that we have something in each of our schools that students can tap into,
Okay.
that they see themselves in. But in the areas that I support, I have a STEM high school, North
Okay.
County. Lindale Middle School is my STEM
Middle
middle
school,
school.
okay.
And then in our elementary schools, we have STEM through the Triple program, and I believe I have 6 schools
Okay.
that are STEM focused
Okay.
through the Triple at elementary.
How do you, with all these schools, how do you balance your time? As far as, how do you say on a Sunday, do you sit there while you're playing with the kids or you're watching football, whatever? Do you say, well, this particular Tuesday I'm going to this school and I want to see what they're doing here, or Thursday I'm going here, or Monday or Friday I'm going to North County? How do you decide where you should be investing your time and your presence in a building so people can know who you are?
So I try to maximize my time.
Okay.
And try not to go between the North County and the Chesapeake feeders on the same day.
Okay.
Right? So if I'm in North County day, I want to stay in North County so I can reduce that travel time.
Absolutely.
I look at the experience of the principal. I look at where that school is
Mhm.
to determine how often they need to see me. And then I map out my days.
Okay.
And I'll say, okay, today is a North County day, and so I want to hit North County High School, so I need to walk with one of the assistant principals to look at Algebra 1, and then I need to run down to the elementary school at Hilltop because that principal is new there this year, and I want to see how things are going
That's
there.
Miss Thomas, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Then maybe I say I want to go to the middle school. I want to go to Brooklyn Park Middle School because I want to see how PVA is going, and I want to walk with Ms. Shakin there. And so it really will depend upon what's going on in the day,
Okay.
when their leadership team is, when their admin team meeting is, and my principals will tell you I just pop up.
Okay.
They don't oftentimes know I'm coming, and they happen to look up.
And there you
When
are.
when did you get here?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to be receptive to being able to come into the school where you are in charge, so you can come whenever you want to come, But you don't seem to be a person that shows frustration a lot. What angers you when it comes down to schools or principals or whatever things of that nature?
What angers me is when we don't do right by children. Right?
Okay.
Our sole purpose for existing is students. If we didn't have students, we wouldn't be here.
Okay.
Right? And so what angers me the most is that when we don't do right by students, whether it's decisions that we make instructionally, decisions that we make through our interactions with them, first and foremost, students should be our priority.
Okay. Do you have an opinion on something that's really about to hit landfall, and that's called restorative practice? Do you have an opinion on that? Because that seems like that's something that's about to evolve in all of our schools. I've had 2 guests who's extensively talked about that restorative practice is about to hit Anne Arundel County Public Schools like a storm.
Yep.
Do you have an opinion on it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So this is our 2nd year deep into restorative practices, RP. 2 years ago, I helped fund a position to support with restorative practices.
Okay.
And so there is truly a need for restorative practices, not only with Anne Arundel County, but throughout the state. And so when you think of restorative practices, it's really restoring the relationship.
Okay.
Oftentimes, situations happen, and we think that we can resolve the situation without going back to repairing the relationship.
Correct.
Because it's all about relationships. And so restorative practices really takes the time to go back and repair the relationships, whether it's relationships between students, relationships between adult and students, relationships between adult and adult.
Right.
And once I have a better understanding of what I did and how it impacted you,
Yes.
and how it impacted our relationship, I can then go back and try to repair some of those things that moving forward, I know that when I say this, it bothers you and why it bothers you.
Right.
So I have a better understanding of why I can't say that to you or why I can't behave that way
Exactly.
and interact with you in a particular way.
True. Are there consequences in the RP scope of things? Like if we're sitting around, we're doing a restorative circle, and we're trying to build that relationship, can there be a consequence if one doesn't want to apply themselves? And what do we do in a situation if there's a conflict? How do we consequence that situation?
I think when we're getting ready to do a circle, we have to first make sure that all parties are in agreement.
Okay.
That's
Great
what
point.
they want to do. I think it can't be a forced thing.
Okay.
I think when we're forcing something, it's like forcing a relationship. It's forcing 2 puzzle pieces that aren't
Mix.
supposed to fit.
Exactly.
It's not going to
You
fit.
say
It's-
you can't put a peg in a square.
Yep,
whatever.
a square peg in a round hole.
In a round hole, okay.
It's trying to do that. So I think that first and foremost, we have to make sure that all parties are agreeing and they understand why.
Okay.
The why behind the restorative practice, the why behind that circle. And I think once that's done and that's done well, there are no consequences. There are only positive consequences.
Absolutely.
Right? I think when we force it and we have not prepped individuals as to what's going to happen is when we see that negative piece come out.
Right. Couple more questions. I know you're a busy person. I'm going to get you up out of here. We talked about earlier about your expectations in receiving the job. Has your expectations now changed in being on the job for the last several months? Is anything differently that you had said in your mind that you started that's different now?
I've learned that I have to pace myself a little better.
Pace, okay.
Yes. I came in running, and while I'm still running, I'm not running as fast as I was when I started.
Okay.
And so I realized that, I have a small opportunity of saying this is my first year.
Right.
But I have high expectations for my principals, which in turn means that I have to have high expectations for myself.
Right.
I never believe in asking someone to do something I'm not willing to do myself.
Right.
Right? So if I'm expecting them to walk through schools and walk in and out of classrooms, I have to be there doing the exact same with them side by side, modeling those things. And so I'd say the thing that I've learned the most is that I've got to do a better job of pacing myself.
Yeah, I would totally agree, because I would say that, I said this a couple of times, it's easy to have people do something for you when they know that you're working with them.
Absolutely.
And they're more receptive to try to get things
Absolutely.
more accomplished in that aspect. I'm gonna get you up out of here. I normally go through this like 60 seconds to get a chance to know who you are.
Yep.
Okay. Where's your hometown?
So I came from New Jersey, Bloomfield, New Jersey.
Okay. What 3 words best describe you?
Christ, family, passion.
Christ, family, passion. What's one thing you couldn't live without?
Ooh, my children.
Children. What's one food you cannot resist?
Fried chicken.
Fried chicken.
Fried chicken.
Before I ask you the other, are your kids in Antelope County Public School?
They are. I've got a 6th grader and a 9th grader.
Okay.
Yep.
What's your favorite place to be?
Home with my children.
Home with the children. Okay. What's your favorite thing to do home with your children, or anything else?
Just relaxing, having a good time playing a board game.
Okay. Where's the best place you've traveled?
The best place I've traveled, I would have to say we went cruising in the Caribbean, and so that was probably the best.
What's your favorite movie or book?
Favorite movie is Remember the Titans. Favorite book is The Circle Maker.
Circle Maker. Okay. What would you do for a career if you wasn't doing this?
Ooh, I would start my own charter schools,
Charter school.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a nickname?
So I'm actually the 3rd Anthony in my family, so my family calls me LA, short for Little Anthony.
L.A.
Mind
okay.
you, I'm the tallest of all the other 2 Anthonys.
But you're Little
I'm
Anthony.
Little
Okay.
Anthony.
What's your most overused or underused word or phrase?
My most overused phrase would probably be awesome or amazing.
Awesome or amazing. Okay. What did you want to do when you were growing up?
School psychologist.
School psychologist.
Yeah.
All right. And lastly, tell us something about you, or tell the viewers something about you that may be surprising to us that we don't know.
I go to the gym Monday through Friday at about 5:15 every morning for about an hour.
Really? So that's
I do.
mental therapy?
That is mental, physical therapy. That's my stress release.
Okay.
That's my stress release.
Well, sir, it's been a great pleasure
It's been an
having
honor.
you here
Thank
to
you for
learn
having
a
me.
little bit more about you. Like I said, I see you throughout the building. I didn't know exactly what your title was, but when I realized that your title was it, I wasn't surprised. And in looking at your history, you've moved up so vastly fast. That's probably a credit to your workmanship and your dedication towards helping our student population. So it's a pleasure to know that we have another person in our community, as far as Mr. Jefferson, our principal, and yourself, that's going to help North County get to the platform that we all know that it can become. So once again, we want to thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you for having
and
me.
as
I
you can see,
appreciate it.
young ladies and young gentlemen and viewers out there, we have a fantabulous gentleman who's here to help our charter schools and our core schools in the Chesapeake and North County region. And once again, Mr. Anthony Alston, our Regional Assistant Superintendent of Anne Arundel County Public School. We'd like to thank that fine gentleman for coming out again, and we will see you guys on the other side in a week or so. Until then, take care.
We bring the light to those who don't know. Pass it on, pass it on.
Yeah, we all the students, yeah, we pledge to unite. With no county pride, yeah, we pledge to the night. Students who stay successful, time to celebrate. Just because we all engage, explore and elevate. Students serving students, always keep it good. Where brotherhood and sisterhood always understood. From each and every club, each honor society, we achieve better together as a variety. Doors to our future, you know that we gotta take it. Obstacles we face it, you know that we gotta make it. We always solving problems to create opportunities, carrying a way of life while we serving our communities. We all were created to create our own path. Try science, technology, engineering, and math. Yeah, thanks to our sports teams, boosting our ambition.
We can be doctors, musicians,